Hello everybody, welcome to this video. As always, my name is Jonathan Curtis and I'm joined here today with a good friend of mine, drummer, drum coach, drum educator, Rob Hirons. Hello Rob.
Hi.
Rob is a very good friend of mine, plays and works from Marseille in the south of France, works as part of MLC Academy Marseille.
Sunny Marseille.
Sunny Marseille, especially in the current climate here, it's worth pointing that out. So Rob is over here on a clinic tour at the moment. You've been in London.
Yeah.
And you've just come up to Nottingham, just outside Nottingham.
Yeah. And then Loughborough as well on, it was Saturday night.
That's right, that's the one I came to.
Yeah.
Rob set, it's quite brave actually, Rob set the metronome to 50.
Yes.
50 BPM. And the topic was subdivisions.
Subdivision. The whole clinic thing was on odd things, so like tuplets and stuff like that. And then there was odd time signatures, which we did after, and then odd groupings, which are three odd.
So this was kind of a demonstration of these applied within quite a strict confinement of that 50 BPM click, wasn't it?
Yes.
And why did you choose to do it at 50?
Well, it's very simple. I was totally inspired, and I always am, by Matt Garska. I've seen him do that sort of thing. Why do it? Why play in quintuplets? Why play in septuplets and all that sort of thing? Like you're never going to use it. Why do things you're never going to use? There is a big answer to that. But that's what inspired me to do that. And there's a book, Master Studies by Joe Morello, and in that there is a page called the Table of Time. You basically you put a click on and you play through all the different note values. And I went up to eight notes per beat, which is 30-second notes. But of course, if you when you're playing like those 30-second notes, you can sometimes double them, so you get little things of 64 in there. But that's just
small diddles and doubles.
Diddles and stuff like that. Yeah. And the whole idea of that was really to go between them, and it's tricky. It's tricky if it's something like 50 BPM playing quintuplets, especially when you're putting it around the kit. And one of the funny things is playing a groove, and when you do a fill, if you manage to get a groove out there and you can work out a groove, which is how you might practice it. Yeah. Working out a certain sticking, that makes 5 notes. I'm going to try that. You've got your template. You say, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to do a fill. Yeah. But when you do the fill, you suddenly go into automatic pilot, and you'll come out with like a sextuplet, 6 notes, because it just comes out so much easier. Yeah. Quintuplets are obviously quite unusual. Yeah. As we've been saying, many of us don't encounter them in our general playing. It's something you have to seek out and decide to work on. What would you say is the main challenge for the odd tuplets, the 7s, the 5s, the 9s? The challenge, well, it's like I said, it's sticking because you just don't come out where you thought you might going to come out. So that's why when you play a fill, you suddenly go back onto automatic pilot, and you come out with the 6 notes instead of the 5. And so,
but is that a technical issue, or is that a mental issue?
I would say it's a conceptual issue. I think it's a feeling issue.
Right.
And I was improvising with that, with the septuplets and whatever. And when you're improvising, we had this whole discussion about, is it all completely free? And I was saying, well, no, because everybody has their own little licks, for want of a better word, that they do. Which helps us improvise, and even if we're putting in different orders and stuff like that, it's coming out as our voice. The thing is, those things, when you're going into the 5s and stuff like that, they don't come out as you thought they were going to do. So you have to really, really be careful about that. That's the biggest challenge in 5. So when I was doing it, if you're doing something like 5s, quintuplets, if I was to do a fill, when I started doing them and messing up, I would say, well, I'm going to create a film, something that I know is 5 notes long. So I do that and keep on getting used to it and keep on getting used to how it feels.
And is that strictly regimented practice, metronome, repetitions, timing?
Oh, yeah.
Because you talked about the intellectual side of practicing, such that when you come to perform, you don't need to think about that.
Yes,
you can let go. And
well, we were talking about the what Dom Familaro mentioned, the 4 stages, which I'm not going to go through now. But the last 2 stages were conscious competence, when you know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. Yeah. And then when you go into the in-conscious competence is when you're letting go and it's all coming out, and what a lot of people say is in the zone, which is fine. But in order to progress, you have to sometimes come back to that third stage and work intellectually.
So that unconscious competence is where you have attained the ability and you're performing it without having to think about it consciously.
Yes.
But you're saying, to make that stage more accessible, we want to be practicing in the conscious competence, in the intellectual side.
Yes, we have to practice that. So you always go back to what, you can do that, and in the unconscious competence you can just do sixes, but do a five, and now you have to intellectualize it until it becomes that more easy, familiar, say.
I think that's a fascinating stage, because I'm a big fan of improvisation.
Yeah.
Again, anyone that's seen my music or my channel will know I talk about improvisation a lot, and some of my students want to be good improvisers.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, because we'll talk conceptually about playing freely, playing what you feel, focusing on the phrasing and the performance and the dynamics and how it all feels. But when they haven't gone through the years and years of intellectual training, you have to remember, or I find I have to remember as the teacher, that doesn't mean the same to them as it does to you or me.
Totally.
With those years of training behind us, you've got to give them that training first, and that might be something as simple as intellectualizing a paradiddle.
Yes.
What are you doing with this paradiddle, and how are you applying it as a tool? You seemed very in control, very comfortable, and some of the musical devices you were using, you had, from what I could gather, you had some polyrhythmics, some metric modulations. You were playing with time in a very sophisticated way. At some point, presumably, you've practiced all of those things very, very strictly.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you were preparing for this particular clinic, was the practicing a case of just brushing up on that?
Yes, I had to brush up on it, but there are a few things I had to work out, like playing quintuplets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, like a groove with, quintuplets in there, and then this goes back into note groupings.
Yeah,
staying in quintuplets, but taking it back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's what I'm calling the modulation then.
Yeah, it's modulation. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that I had to work on, definitely.
That was the part that really made me sit up, I think, because your brain hears the grouping of 4, doesn't it? The brain hears the rock beat. Yeah. But then you suddenly realise there's the click coming through the speakers.
It isn't anymore.
That's not where you expected it to be. And I think that was the moment where I suddenly had a big smile on my face when I realised that 4-note rock groove you were playing was actually phrased as a quintuplet against that 50 BPM click. Yeah. That's when a little light bulb went on, where I was quite engaged at that point.
Yeah, so what happens? Well, obviously the brain tunes to that because you've been used to hearing that. So as soon as you play, bum, dat, dum, dat, falls, and then your ears are going to, oh yeah, I know that. So they'll hitch onto that, and you realise the click is in the wrong place. Yeah. So some guy asked me in London, what do I? Where am I with that? What am I thinking? I think I'm feeling. You see, and again, it's a question of automatic, isn't it? But I mean, we can play that, the falls, and still speak to you. Yeah. And am I counting it? No. So I'm probably using that automatic kind of muscle memory we talked about, but still knowing where the 5s are.
Yeah. So mentally, then, are you keeping track consciously of where the click is as well, or is that happening unconsciously as well? No,
I'm trying to I'm trying to know where the 5s are going by and where the 1 is. Letting it come and just acknowledging it. Yeah, letting the 5s come by, hearing the click, or with their hearing it, but you still have to stay in quintuplets. So
with that amount of mental processing going on when you're playing, would you say that is detrimental to the overall groove, or is that just part of the learning process?
No, that detrimental to
as in some people might claim, if you've got that amount of mental analysis going on while you're playing, it can't groove because you're not feeling the groove.
Yeah, it's an exercise.
one of the questions I asked you on the night, if you had a distinct set of vocabulary specifically built around quintuplets and septuplets, or if you were adapting your existing vocabulary. If we take a style of music that someone's unfamiliar with, so I might have a student that's a very good drummer, but they've never played jazz before. If I asked them to play a jazz drum solo, or to play along to a jazz tune, the best they can do is take their vocabulary that they've already got and somehow try and mould it to this new jazz context. When you come to study jazz, there is part of that process is exploring the specific jazz vocabulary. There are pieces of vocabulary that are idiomatic to jazz, as there are to blues or to fusion or to death metal or anything else. And I was wondering if that same thing applied to different rhythms, different rhythmic rates. Is there a set of vocabulary that is specific to quintuplets?
I wouldn't say.
Is that too black and white, perhaps?
Maybe, I mean, in a sense, why would there be? It's 5 notes rather than 4, But I don't think so. I certainly made some up to start getting it going, and 7s as well.
So if there's somebody watching this who may be a very comfortable drummer, may be able to play and improvise quite freely, but has never played a quintuplet before, what would they have to do? To make themselves comfortable with 5s and 7s.
Devise a groove, maybe even write it out.
A dedicated groove in quintuplets.
That's what I did. Right. Because nothing's comfortable.
No.
I would work especially with the interaction with the hi-hat thing. I mean, I would write one out. I mean, you can obviously go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a bit monotonous on the hand. I'd like more of like almost a linear thing. But I would devise one, and I think the first time I did, I wrote it out on the whiteboard. And then I started working out and made loads of mistakes. But then eventually got it. So I would write out and prefabricate ideas. Definitely.
And I guess once you've got that to a point of familiarity, it becomes ammunition for you to work with when you're playing.
Totally. I mean, what I would do is write out something like that, work on that until I got that comfortable, which shouldn't be that long if you're really just doing that. And then I would say, well, I can do 2 bass drums there, or I can, or put a fill in there. That's what I would do in the beginning, and I'd change it a little bit. So, I'll put something in there, and I'll put syncopation there, and so on, and keep doing that, and then eventually getting used to it. Because we can all do that in 4s and 16th notes because we're used to it. Okay, so just a question of knowing what 5 feels like. And again, for everybody out there saying, it's very nice, but why bother?
Which I'm sure there will be a few.
It's like it's a very fair question, and the point is a whole. Challenging yourself.
So because it's hard.
Because it's hard. And the whole point is, what we want to do as a drummer, we want to be able to, what's the ultimate goal is to be able to play what you hear. Okay, so we've got to train ourselves to be able to play what we hear. So in that sense, we've got to train our reactivities. I hear something like this, I'm going to play. It's like the 2-stage process of creation. It's like every creation is an imagined situation and then realised, physically
executed somehow.
Yes, exactly, and everything is like that. It's always the first stage of creation is an image in your head, or a sound, if that's what. But it's an imagination, and then you create it. So the difficulty with drums for many drummers is being able to go from one to the other. And if everybody could play what they heard, there'd be loads and loads and loads of great drummers out there that wouldn't be frustrated as they are.
Sure.
Quite often frustrated because we hear something, we only go to do it, our muscle memory kicks in.
Your technique lets you down or something like that.
So you need to challenge yourself. Your brain wants to do that, but the hands have been doing other things.
So you're falling back on something you already knew how to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you didn't intend to.
That's right. So doing an exercise like this, it can only help to get your mind really focused on doing something that is a challenge.
And I guess also the more you work on this sort of thing, the more things you're going to be able to hear in your mental stage of creation, because beginners, it doesn't help them to say play what you hear. Because they probably don't have anything to draw upon. They have no reference on the drums. They don't have any rhythms to draw from or things like that. So the more you work on new vocabulary, new rhythms, new ideas, the bigger your mental pool comes that you can draw from.
You spend your whole time as a teacher getting people to develop muscle memory to only later knock it down. And each case is like that because you always got to challenge yourself. So, hi-hat's a classic thing. All beginners, if you take that away from them, they're lost. The regular hi-hat thing. So the first time you're starting to do the hi-hat on the offbeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that's a big challenge. Okay, because they're so used to doing that and they've developed that. It's a good thing. But now you're asking them not to do it. Yeah. So we spend our time building up,
It's like a crutch almost. You're removing a crutch.
Yeah, that's right. Muscle memory to only then try and beat it. With other things. Well, doing what I'm doing is the same thing. We're training ourselves to do something we're not used to. That doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and play songs in 5 and 7. So there's absolutely no illusion of doing stuff. I'll say there's many schools of thought, and sometimes the school of thought is like, why bother practicing things, particularly complicated things?
I do find being across the sort of modern paradigm of drumming, there is a section of the community that is almost hostile towards complex drumming.
Yeah, that as well.
There's the chops aren't musical.
Yeah.
Speed isn't important. Complexity for complexity's sake is bad, and we should all play essentially like Bernard Purdie and it's groove and nothing else. Would you say that was too simplistic a view for drumming, or is there a valid place for those criticisms?
I understand. That's a really big subject. Doing these sort of things, fast, all this sort of thing. The bad name. It's basically the victim of people who use it in the wrong place.
For its own sake, maybe.
Yes, because a lot of people, obviously, when they get to that stage, and then doing these mad things and really fast things and all these really weird things, that's fine if you're doing it where it needs to be done, even just a practice situation. I only do the 7s and stuff like that when I'm practicing. But when you need to be able to play a groove, then, and that's the problem, I think, is a lot of people who do that, then they can't do anything else and they overplay and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's where that bad name comes from, I would suggest, because of people who get to that stage and then they can't do other things, and that's where it gets frowned upon.
It does seem to be not necessarily paradoxical, but there is this wing of the community that will say, don't need chops, you don't need this, you don't need that. But then at the same time, the players who do that seem to be glorified, put on the pedestal of those guys that are playing at the highest level. It's not necessarily one or the other, is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's thousands of examples of people who can just just go nuts on the drum kit, but when they're called to do a job, that they play. Yeah,
I remember being at a Thomas Lang clinic.
Yeah,
and he said the same thing. He said, "I'm at a clinic. The whole point is to show off.
Yeah,
basically.
Of course,
You didn't pay the money to come and watch me play a 4/4 rock group."
Yeah. And when you see these videos, don't do this on gigs, you'll get you fired or whatever. I mean, they're right. They're right. Don't do it on gigs. Don't do it on. I mean, I can't agree more. Don't do it on gigs, but you can do it if you want in other situations. I mean, clinic situations are great for doing these things. Where a lot of drummers were doing clinics where it was just groove, and going out there and saying, "Well, this is what you need to do if you want to work," and they're absolutely right. That's what you want to do if you want to work, if you want to do that kind of job. And then, I remember seeing Virgil Donati, and he said, well, people ask me why I play all this mad stuff. And he said, basically, well, there's so many people out there now, saying just play straight, really simple, otherwise you're going to get fired, don't play anything complicated. And he said, it was in Bradford, I believe, he said, well, I'm here just to, I'm the antithesis of that. I'm here to say I want to do it because I enjoy doing it, and there we go. And that's it, because I can. And I thought, great, that's great, man. But I can guarantee that if Virgil Donati's played with some mainstream people.
Oh, sure.
But don't do it on a gig, otherwise you'll get fired. Totally right, totally agree. But it doesn't mean you have to never do it if you want to challenge yourself. I mean, life is full of people in all sorts of different domains challenging themselves. thank the Lord.
It's kind of like placing the art form in parallel with the profession.
Totally.
You can do the professional job, but you can also explore the art form and push yourself creatively.
Both exist, don't they?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love pushing the art form. I just love that challenge. It's personal for me. I mean, obviously, as drummers, we tend to play to other people, but I'd be quite happy just to do it myself.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Well, that's why we do it ultimately.
Yeah, but then as soon as you play to other people, then you get that whole thing about, why are you doing that? And so, because I want to do it. Because I enjoy doing it myself. When you have to play with somebody else and you have to play a groove, I mean, for me, speaking about me, I will play a straight groove and I won't do all that stuff. I did when I was younger. Yeah. Because when you're younger...
Well, when you can, you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I know people doing their first gig and just do one gig and they have to get it all out, okay, because they've been working on it. But that's, when you get a bit more mature, then you know that you can do that when you want, but if you really need to play what the music needs, obviously, simple as that, basically.
Okay, well, we'll wrap that up there. Thank you, Rob, for
my pleasure,
for getting together and talking to us today. I can't stress enough what a fantastic player Rob is. It was a joy to see him on Saturday night. I hope that footage at the start did it some justice. If Rob happens to play in your area, I would strongly recommend you get along to it. For those of you in the European area, whatever that means these days.
Yeah, be careful about that.
Rob teaches from Marseille.
Yeah.
You've got an academy, MLC Academy in Marseille.
Exactly.
I have been across specifically for clinics and lessons. It's a great place, great tuition, strongly recommended. RobHironsDrums.com.
That's it.
For all of Rob. Everything that is Rob is over there. Check him out. You've got a great trio, actually, with Michel and Tommy.
Yeah. Michel and Mathieu.
Is Tommy his surname?
Yeah, it's Tommy's surname. Mathieu, Tommy. Yeah, but you can use whichever you want. I'm sure he'll be fine about it.
You've got a great trio, actually, with me.
Michel is now a great guitarist.
He is.
And Mathieu Tommy.
Fantastic bassist,
on the bass. Fantastic bassist, and we just go nuts with
What was that album called? Is it self-titled?
Insipid. But
Insipid, that's right.
Yeah, we're doing a new one, and I'm doing a lot of recording with Michel as well, and it's going to be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. See you soon, guys.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.